you're not familiar with basic investing, choosing investments for your 401k can be super intimidating. So I want to break it down in as easy a way as possible so you can make some good selections for your 401k this year. A friendly reminder that this is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. These opinions are my own. Before we get into choosing any investments, let's talk about what actually a 401k is. Shockingly, only a third of Americans can actually give a basic definition of a 401k, so I want to make sure you're totally clear on what the purpose of it is. A 401k is the main way that many Americans save and invest for retirement. So for example, if you contribute a portion of your salary to your 401k, your taxable income is actually lower for that year, so you pay less in taxes. While your investments are in your 401k growing, you don't have to pay taxes on them yet, but in retirement, when you start to withdraw that money, you will have to pay taxes on that money just like it was regular income. Now, some employers might also offer a Roth version of a 401k, which is a really great option if you have it. If you're familiar with a Roth IRA is another individual retirement account, another tax advantage account that you can contribute after tax money to. It grows tax-free, and then when you take that money out in retirement, you don't have to pay taxes on it. The Roth version of the 401k works in a pretty similar way. You're contributing with after-tax money, so it doesn't reduce your taxes this year, and then in retirement, you get to take that money out tax-free. If you have an employer contributing to the Roth 401k, that portion of the money will be taxed in retirement, but the portion you contribute into the Roth isn't. I know, it can get confusing. Just remember this. With a traditional 401k, you're waiting to pay the taxes until retirement. With a Roth, you're paying the taxes now and you don't have to pay them later. Simple enough? All right, now this is the portion of the video where I'm gonna get a little bit spicy because this is my pet peeve when it comes to 401ks. If you're lucky enough to work for an employer that offers a match, which means that if you contribute up to a certain percentage in your 401k, your employer will actually match that, which means they'll give you additional money or contribute additional money into your 401k above what you're contributing. If you have that option, if you have a match, take the match. Even if you're in debt, even if you want to spend that money on other things, that is basically part of your compensation. Think about it this way. If you make $80,000 a year and your company matches 5%, 5% of $80,000 is $4,000. Basically, if you make $80,000 a year and your employer has a match of 5% and you decide not to take the match, that's pretty much like saying, you know what, employer, I'd rather get paid $80,000 than $84,000. See where I'm going with this? Just take the match. If you have high interest debt somewhere else, find another way to pay it off because you're missing out on basically money that should be part of your compensation. Now, the second piece of the 401k that we have to talk about is how much you should contribute. This is very individual. This will depend on the person. So based on my pet peeve, you should definitely take the match and contribute up to that percentage. If the match is 4%, 4%. If the match is 5%, contribute 5%. Beyond that, it really depends on your situation. If you can contribute between 10 and 15% of your salary, that's amazing, and you'll be on your way to maxing out your 401k. That might not be feasible for everyone, so it really just depends on your situation, and I definitely recommend you take some time to figure out what can you really contribute each month, where else can you find ways to invest into your 401k, because it's a great tool for your retirement, and if you can up that percentage a little bit, it's going to be really impactful in the long term. Now, there's some exciting news for 2022. Workers under 50 can contribute up to $20,500 into your 401k. That's up $1,000 from the year before. So definitely look to up your percentage contribution if you can, because you can save even more into your 401k now. And if you're hesitating to add more to your 401k, or you don't want to contribute more for whatever reason, I want to share one scenario with you. You've heard of compound interest, right? It's when you invest and that money grows and grows and grows exponentially. Now, here's a crazy example. If you start investing into your 401k $2,000 a year from the time you're 19 until you're 27, and then from 27 to 65 contribute $0, by the time you're 65, because of compound interest with the average return of the stock market over the last 30 years, you'd have $1.02 million. That's just because you started early and you're investing consistently. It doesn't mean it's too late if you're older than 26, but just something to think about as you're thinking about how much you can contribute. The more you can contribute now earlier, the better off you're going to be in retirement. The next piece we have to talk about before you select your investments is assessing your risk tolerance. Now again, this is different for everybody depending on your situation. All investing has some level of risks, but there are different types of investment that carry relatively safer levels of risk. In your 401k, you're likely going to have options to invest in stocks or bonds or both, and bonds carry less risk than stocks typically. So it's good to have a mix of both stocks and bonds in your portfolio. Now here's the deal. We're investing for the long term, right? We're putting this money in until retirement and not touching it, which means that you can afford some level of risk. Now, typically, experts recommend a combination of bonds and stocks depending on your age. So if you are around 30, they recommend 20% or 30% in bonds and then 80 or 70% in stocks. If you're a little bit older, as you near retirement, you're going to want more in bonds and less in stocks. One rule of thumb is just to invest your age in bonds. So if you're 30, you would choose 30% of your portfolio to be in bonds and 70% in stocks. A lot of other folks suggest that you should be more aggressive than that, and if you're around 30, put 20% in bonds, 80% in stocks. It's really up to you what you're most comfortable with. I will say if you're planning on leaving it in for 30 years, you can afford to be more aggressive with your investments. Now it's time to actually select the investments in our 401k. So you've decided on your risk tolerance, you've decided how much you're going to contribute to your 401k each month or what percentage of your salary you're comfortable with contributing. You're definitely taking the match, at least, at a minimum. Now let's figure out what you're actually going to select. So the good news, bad news here is for a lot of you, you'll have a limited selection of funds, which is great because there are thousands of mutual funds and index funds and ETFs out there, and it can be very overwhelming. So you will likely have a limited selection in your 401k to choose from. Now I'm going to show you exactly the options that I have to choose from in my 401k and how I would go about doing it depending on the type of person and a couple different ways to do it. Now keep in mind you won't have the same exact investments, but hopefully this will give you an idea of what to select. And as a reminder, this is just my opinion. I am not providing financial advice. This is just educational for you. We are looking at this list of funds that we can choose from. So all of these are funds. There's no individual stocks here. These are funds that carry a bunch of stocks within each investment selection. So the great thing about that is that whenever you select a fund, it's going to be invested in many, many different companies. So you're diversified from that perspective right off the bat, no matter what you choose. Now, the first thing I want to show you is you're going to probably have a selection of funds that have dates on the end. 2025, 2030, 2035. This is a target date fund. And a target date fund is a fund that chooses a selection of stocks and bonds for you. I have a whole nother video on target date funds specifically. I'll drop in the link to that in the comments below. But that is a really easy way to choose one fund if you want to do a super lazy approach. Pick the fund with the date that you plan on retiring. So if you plan on retiring in 2050, you'll want to choose a target date fund that has the date of 2050 at the end. That means that as you get older, that fund allocation is going to adjust to lower the amount of stocks, increase the amount of bonds to reduce your risk over time as you approach retirement. A word of caution on target date funds, sometimes they can be really expensive. So you want to check out the expense ratio, which I'll show you in a second what that looks like, but that is the percentage fee that you have to pay for selecting that fund. Just to be clear, 401ks are not free. You have to pay for the funds that you select, just like an operating expense of the fund, you have to pay that, and that comes out of the investments that you make. You also likely have some kind of administration fee with your 401k, so it's not free, but a way to reduce the fees that you have to pay is to find investments with low expense ratios. Okay, so you can choose a target date fund, that's one option. Another option is to look at your risk tolerance and choose two funds that are invested, one in stocks and one in bonds. Let's, for argument's sake, said that you decided your risk tolerance was 80% stocks and 20% bonds, which is very common for somebody in their 30s. I think that's a good place to start. You'll want to pick a basic S&P 500 index fund or a fund that invests in large blue chip companies. So these are your Microsoft, your Amazon, your Apple, those are the types of companies that are going to be really stable over time, and that's usually what's called large cap. Large cap refers to any company that's valued at over $10 billion. So if you look at the list here, you'll see there's 3 large cap investments right at the top of the page. This is a great place to start. You could select one of these and be in good shape, and then you could also select one of the bond investments down here, and you'll see this is the category. These bond funds just have a collection of bonds in them. You're not investing in one bond, you're just investing in multiple bonds. That's one really simple way to do it. You can select a large cap fund and a bond fund, and you'll be good to go. Before you start selecting funds, there's one really important thing I want to circle back to, and that's expense ratios. So remember when I said expense ratios are the fee you pay to own that fund. It's the operating cost of the fund. So the first thing I might do is to open the fees tab and see how much each of these funds cost. So if we look at the large cap fund, the gross expense ratio is 0.5%. Not terribly high, but compared to the FID 500 index, the third large cap down, you're gonna have 0.015% fee. Very low compared to the other one, so you're going to get to keep more of your money. Now obviously that first fund could perform a lot better, and historically when I looked at the returns, it has. It's really up to you if you want to invest in a fund that has done historically better in the past. The problem is that historical performance doesn't guarantee future returns. So I would probably just pick the lowest expense ratio fund, but that's my style for something like this. Now, bond funds can also have higher expense ratios too, so it's important to look at those and see what is there. So we have 3 different types of bonds here at the bottom. You can click into these bond funds or any of these funds to get a sense of what's included. So for example, I'm gonna look at this JP Morgan income bond. It has the lowest expense ratio. Let's see what's in it. So it looks like we have a government national mortgage bond, a JP Morgan bond, a high yield corporate bond. These are all different types of bonds. There's some treasury notes in here. This is a very well diversified bond fund. I would just pick something like this. Don't overthink it. So 20% of our investments are going to go in that. Now I do want to circle back to the top and look at the large cap funds again, just to show you an example. If we open this fund, and this is a very popular fund, a lot of people own this. I have this fund in other accounts. It has a very low expense ratio. And the reason it's so popular is because it holds these big companies, these over $10 billion companies that are super stable. They're probably not going anywhere. You can see Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Tesla. Those are all good companies to invest in for the long term. If you wanted to stick with just those 2 funds, the one stock fund at 80% and the one bond fund at 20%, that would be a perfectly acceptable portfolio. If you'd like to get a little bit more fancy, or you're interested in other types of investments, in your selection you're probably going to see mid-cap funds, small-cap funds. Those are funds that invest in different size companies. So while those large-cap funds are going to be the Amazon, the Microsoft, the Alphabet, mid-cap and small-cap are going to be smaller companies that you can invest in that usually carries with it a little bit more risk, potentially higher return. So that's the trade-off there. You could also invest a portion of that 80% in an international fund. Once you've decided on your asset allocation, which is that percentage in stocks and percentage of bonds, you could split up the stock percentage in a bunch of different ways. But again, I highly recommend that you don't overcomplicate it. If it's your first time choosing investments or you're really overwhelmed, keep it simple. Pick a stock fund and a bond fund. If you want to get more into it, there are likely going to be some other options that you can look into. One more thing I want to point out before we move on is to show you that you can actually see the returns of all of these investments over time right on the main page typically. So mine looks like this. If you look all the way over to the right, you're going to see the 1-year return, the 3-year return, the 5-year return of that particular fund. You'll also see the 10-year or LOF, which is the life of the fund percentage return. These are a great thing to look at to get an idea of how the fund has performed in the past. Past returns are not indicative of future returns, so I definitely wouldn't rely on that as some sort of exact expectation of what you can expect in the future, although it is a helpful directional if you're trying to figure out what you can expect from these funds. So let's quickly recap what we talked about today. First of all, you're going to make sure you're contributing at least the match, but hopefully you're finding ways to increase that contribution if you can, because the 401k truly is a really valuable vehicle from a tax perspective. So if you can contribute more, I highly recommend finding a way to do so. The second thing you're going to want to do is figure out your risk tolerance. This is going to vary depending on the person. For a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, they might look at it 80% stocks and 20% bonds. For total transparency, I have a lot of different investments. In my 401k, I'm mostly in stocks. I'm barely selecting any bonds at all, but that's what works for me. What works for you might be totally different. And then lastly, you're just picking your funds. And the simplest way to do that is to pick a stock fund and a bond fund. If you want to go all in on stocks, you can choose just one stock fund. The S&P 500 option is always going to be there for you, and it's a great option to get invested in some of the biggest, most successful companies out there. In conclusion, don't overcomplicate it. It can get so overwhelming selecting funds. Just pick a couple that make sense for you and you'll be well on your way. As always, this is education, not advice. If you have any more questions, drop them below in the comments and check out the links below for other videos as well. Thanks for watching.